I have defined the entity framework, I have defined the model, I have defined the contract. Fine. Now, so I've taken these two functions within the interface. So let me move to a service folder, and now this class is implementing this interface. And by using entity framework, by the DB context, we can go for adding a record into backend, and we can go for validating a record against to my DB set whether it is correct or not as a login. So now uh, add. So one thing is one more. We need to have more one thing in this database part. Where is the database part now? Again, you come back here. So I have taken the default constructor. So we need to have a parameterized constructor. The reason is this class is having a parameterized constructor. And I want to call the base class parameterized constructor. So if you don't go for constructor chaining, you can't go for calling the base class parameterized constructor. And Sandeep, why you want to call the base class parameterized constructor? What's the reason behind it? Because this class is having a parameterized constructor that takes parameter as a DB context option. And DB context option is basically retrieving the connection string and passing to the DB context. Let's take an example. A can point to database. A can point to database, but if B provides the a connection string to A, so B is providing the connection string to A, then A can point to database. So believe A is a DB context, and A is basically DB context, and B is basically DB context option. So we need to pass the parameter a DB context option. DB context option, right? And you make an object of this class, give any name, doesn't matter, and go for constructor chaining. Why I'm going for constructor chaining? Because in case of inheritance, a derived class cannot call explicitly, derived class cannot call implicitly the base class parameterized constructor. So by the base keyword, we can able to call the base class parameterized constructor is called constructor chaining. So DB context option is basically class. It is retrieving the connection string and giving to base. And who is base? DB context. So he is giving to base is called OPT as an object. Now, so I have taken three classes. DB context can point to database if you provide him the connection string. So who can provide the connection string to DB context? DB context option. Okay. And so what is DB set? DB set can point to table. So when you go for writing an object of DB set, so when you go for code first approach, once you go for migration, what object name you have given here, it will make a table for that. उस object में वही property, वही columns होंगे जो अपने यहाँ define कर रखा है, right? Now, so go for this is basically done. I'm giving you this.
Just one question.
Now, so this is done. Now moving to user service. So this class is implementing this interface, and we have to now. So add in this class a parameterized constructor, public user service, and now. So I'm moving to the service folder. There I've taken the class called user service, right? Now include on the top login service dot entity framework. Now, and pass the constructor as a parameter the context which is inheriting from the DB context, that is user context, and any object name I'm giving context. And at class level, I will explain each and everything. Let me do first, right? So a user context space C capital level and assign the localized object to the instance object. This dot your context is equal to context. So once you allocate the memory of this class, default constructor will be, constructor will be called, and constructor will be having the parameter called user context. So why I have taken the user context? Because I want to go for saving a record. I want to go for searching a record. If you don't involve the user context, you can't go for saving a record, right? And for searching a record, I don't want user context. I want DB set. I just told you the working of DB set memorize me the data table or data set in ADO.NET. If you want to go for local manipulation, you play with the DB set. But if you want to do final change in your database, you play with the a DB context. Now, remove this statement. So I'm doing first time how we can go for saving a record into backend using code first, and how we can go for searching a record. But we have to apply lambda expression for searching a record. So add one more namespace at this point using um, a system.link. So this namespace is carrying certain operator, certain functionality, certain functions. We can go for lambda expression. Now, at this point, you go for this dot context as instance variable dot add. Then you go for adding the local object, and then you can go for final change in database. As you recall there, edu.it execute non-query. This dot context dot save changes. This is how, and look at we have two versions. One is called task parallel library, is called asynchronous, and second is called synchronous. I will discuss after some time a difference between synchronous and asynchronous. So go this time, save changes. Fine. This is how you can go for saving a record into backend. But at this point, you have to go for searching a record because you need to go for search. Once it is there, then you can go for moving to the next part. The searching is needed at local end. So we need to go for lambda operator for applying the where clause for searching a record. So now I have prepared everything. So let me save my time. You also. So this dot control V and change only context. This dot context is C capital dot your DB set name is called user. I've given the user and everything remains same. Look at here, everyone. So context is better. You can give a this to recognize who is instance and who is local. This dot context dot user. Look at user is an object of DB set class. Dot where and username is this and password is this, and first or default as a first it will pick up, and if temp is equal to null, return false and repeat this. So I'm giving you this one now. Given and also given you chat. Now I'm waiting. So we need to apply the IOC container for this class, because if you don't allocate the memory for this class, if you don't allocate the memory for this class, your constructor will be not called. And there is no involvement of constructor, there is no involvement of context. If there is no involvement of context, you can't go for saving a record, you can't go for changing a record, right? I'm waiting. Done everyone?
Yes, sir.
Done Pankaj, Upadhyay? So, so now who is going to Sandeep create an object of this class? I told a number of times in core request pipeline, request first comes to the IS. IS can forward a request to Castrol. Castrol can forward a request to your OIN, and OIN can forward a request to controller, right? So OIN as a package having two functions. One is called configure services and second called configure. So do go to starter.cs file. Now at this point, look at configure services and configure. So look at what is configure services. Look at this written very clearly. This method gets called by the runtime. Use this method to add services to the container. So you have to add your class to this container for auto instantiation. Fine. So iService collection interface is having several extension method for auto instantiation. It depends per call, per session, and single call, right? If you go for per call, it's called add transient. If you go for per session, it's called add a scope, right? And if you go for singleton, singleton. So at this point, first of all, you include the namespace on the top. I have opened the file called starter.cs file using Microsoft Microsoft.entity framework code, right? So come back and go at this point. Services, look at here. And you need to also include one more namespace for contract with interface and class. So using login service dot the uh, service in, entity framework, you can get a context there. Fine. And contract is login service dot contract. Now, so have added three namespace. Now come back. So services dot add. Look at add db context. Add db context. So this is the function. You have to pass a context for creating the instance. Look at context. So I've taken the entity framework, and if you don't allocate the memory for this class, you can't go for calling the parameterized constructor. So at this point, I want this class to be instantiated by the core itself, and second call user service. If you don't give these two classes name to the audit core framework, they can't go for auto instantiation. This is because we have gone for the configure services method. It's a generic function. It's an extension method. It's a generic function. Now, so you have to pass your context. So I've taken the context called user context. User context. Now, so and we have to communicate to database server. It's called SQL server. So we have to give a connection string. Fine. So let me go for now. So I'm defining the connection string, not defining the, I'm calling the connection string.
रोटी रख दो एकदम.
So I'm giving you the syntax. I will explain each and everything what I have written here. Don't take tension. Fine. Hey यार, कितनी बार बोले बंद रखो इसको. So, done everyone, I'm waiting. So I'm giving my context name, then I'm retrieving the connection string. Wait, I will go for giving the connection string in your JSON file. Recall ASP.NET here, there was a file called web.config. There we write a connection string and we do retrieve. Even in Windows form, there we had a file called app.config, right? just retrieving the connection string and giving to DB context, or DB context can give it to your DB context. Done, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Done, sir.
So
Yes,
go
sir.
for next one. Services dot. So I have just told you I have two class for auto instantiation, one for user context and one for your user service. Services dot add transient. You can go for per call, you can go for per session. It's better you can go for short. A duration of time is called per call. Sorry, a transient is called per call. Yes, add transient. And you can go. It's a generic function again, so you can mention the interface and interface associated to your class. So interface name is iLogin, right? And oh sorry, iLogin, and the class name which represent which implement the interface called iLogin is called user service. User service. So we need to include one more namespace using login service dot service. So include one more namespace, everyone gentlemen. So you go for a user service. Fine. This is how why why error is coming.
सर जेनरिक का पैरामीटर होगा सर रेदर
के
देन
साथ होगा ना
क्या होगा?
जेनरिक फंक्शन है तो सर जेनरिक के अंदर पास करेंगे ना यूजर सर्विस को सर हम रेदर देन की मेथड के पैरामीटर.
Sorry. It has two parameters. Sorry, it has two parameters. It has two parameters. So one is called interface and second your class. So now IOC container will allocate the memory for this class with respect to this interface. It's a per call. Once a request is done, you're getting a response. Object is no more memory, no more available in a memory. You just add transient as a per call, right? So I'm giving you also. Done, everyone? I am waiting.
यस
Yes,
सर.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Pankaj Upadhyay, Australia. Are you doing or
Done.
not?
Yes, sir. Done, sir.
Chalo. Now. So now come to a connection string part in appsetting.json file. I promise after the class I will give you complete workflow what is going on in a background. Fine. So I can't do both things together, theory as well as practical. So now at this point we have to include the connection string which can point to database. I'm just using a code first. I promise I'll also go for to the database first. So now go for writing the connection string and then I will give you. And if any error comes, if any exception comes, do fight. You're learning first time. So don't go for life is a bed of roses. You can get everything by Sandeep Karan. You have to fight with the syntactical part and you have to fight with everything. So don't believe I can feed you everything in your mouth. So here I you give look at your database name. I'm giving a database suppose name is called login service. This name does not exist in database because I'm just doing a code first approach. So by the migration, if you go for migration technique, then database will be created, right? Only you change I'm giving you. So it's better you can give better employee DB. रहने दो कोई बात नहीं ये key है key could be anything fine I'm giving you entire files This is my system name, right? And everything remains same. You can change also key, let it be, doesn't matter. But if you change at this point, again you have to go for starter.cs file. Again you have to change there. So let it be, doesn't matter, just a key name. Imply db is a key which can represent to this connection string. Done everyone? I hope done everyone. Done.
Yes, sir.
So now moving to next part is called last part is called controller. So look at startup is done, app setting is done, define this layer, define the model, define the context part. Now I'm defining the endpoint. Then I will go for migration. So now go to controller, add a file is called user controller. User login.cs. And please be sincere. User login controller. Don't forget not to write a controller. User login controller.cs. Prefix could be anything, but suffix will be controller, right? No. So you can give any file name, but controller has to be. As you can get an idea now, weather forecast controller. Look at, they have given the demo by Microsoft. Now, inherit your class from controller base. Controller base. Now, include the namespace for this class. So provide the parameterized constructor to the controller. It's called user login controller. So I have to expose not the actual implementer for the controller, for the interface. I'm exposing my interface, and the interface is called iLogin, and iLogin interface is being implemented by the class called user service. I should not use the actual class name. This is the cause I've taken the interface, right? So go for including on the top, and then the space is login service dot the contract. So one more using uh, login service just model. So go at this point, I login interface. Assign this dot called object is called I login. And it should be content. Should not be an I. Done. So define two endpoint for registration and for the login. So you have to go for attribute routing for defining the endpoint, so you can get an idea of from the weather forecast controller. So include attribute routing. So now your endpoint will be user, right? User login slash get operation or post operation. So, so let me add two function. Let me add two function. Fine, at control level. So I'm moving for the get operation and post operation. So let me change the model name, the membership, M is capital, and The instance object is called login and add function. Let me go for membership, right? And login. So now I will give you program, just wait. So my URL will be user login for the post operation and user look at here. So I have applied the attribute routing because we can't have two a post, we have to distinguish fine. So this is how we have done. Now I'm giving you the endpoint. I'm waiting
Sir, if we are using API controller, then we need to use form body.
because this is basically not needed at this point, Ajay. If you ask me frankly speaking, at this point we don't need API controller. API controller, why we have here for model state, wait for assignment number 2, we have for model state and we have for validations. So there is no point to have the API controller. You can remove, doesn't matter. Fine. It has different mean. It plays a major role when you go for model state. When you want to go for model validations now, then you apply the API controller. It's a very important feature. So wait for next assignment. I will discuss there. Getting Ajay? It is it is only
Okay, sir.
concerned. It is only concerned to model state. Fine. So what is model state? Wait, next session. Chalo. Done everyone? Shall I go for next one?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm not getting any response. What's the reason? No. So let me go for migration. Shall I wait? Pankaj Upadhyay?
No, sir. Go ahead. And
No. क्लास के बाद अजय पॉज कर दो उसको आनंद कुछ सेकंड के लिए अगर 29 बच्चों स्टार्ट रिकॉर्डिंग
done, sir.
so go for migration right and .NET EF
मैंने आपसे सब्जी मांगी थी।
.NET EF migrations add space any migration. It will generate a script. What is migration? Just a script. Generating a script. Then you can go for updating a script for creating a database. Now I'm giving a tool for now come back. So .NET EF database update. This is how the database will be created. No database is created successfully. So we achieved our target today. Fine. So endpoint is ready. Only we have to expose by the postman. Then we can think for Angular or Blazor as any front end. Thanks God, database is created. If you want to see, you can go to SQL Server, and I've given the connection string for database in the file. So I've taken the database name. It's called login service. So let me now SQL Server is opened. Let me check whether database is made or not. It's called login service. So go for login service now and table is your lookat. Table is user. I have taken there a lookat primary key, username, password, and age. इसको चेक करो, देखो तो इसने आइडेंटिटी बनाया क्या अजय? Can you check अजय? Has he made this column as identity? I'm moving further. Fine.
Yes, sir. Checking.
Now, so I'm giving these two commands. .ef database update. I will see all the problems after the class. I promise. So copy this one. Now. So best of luck. Everything is ready. Now let me run the application.net run. Then I will open the Postman to go for registration and to go for login. So my endpoint is user login. Let me copy first.
आइडेंटिटी नहीं बनाया सर.
Yes.
We have added one key attribute, so that it means it is identity.
I'm not getting sorry.
Sir, in model we have put it the username as a key attribute.
Yes.
So it will be the primary key.
No, he has made a primary key.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So let me open the Postman. It's better we can have better endpoint, for the even though for the post operation we can give name called register. It's better register. So please change your endpoint, everyone. Is go for better meaningful. So your endpoint will be user login slash register and user login slash login. It's better, right? And you give L as a capital. Now, so let me restart the server. I'm giving again the controller. Let me start the server. And I'm opening the Postman. It's just a basic assignment today for the login service. Better assignment 2. I will apply several things for enhancement